My hands are shaking as I stare at the bank statement in my lap. The numbers blur through my tears, but I've memorized them already. $200,000. My grandmother's trust fund. The one that was supposed to be split between Celeste and me. The one my parents told me never existed. I can hear my sister's laughter drifting from the restaurant across the street where her birthday party is happening right now. The party I wasn't invited to. The party funded by money that was half mine. My phone buzzes. A text from my coworker. Your sister just posted about her family's generosity paying for her Stanford education. Lucky girl. Lucky girl. My throat closes up. I taste bile. For 5 years, I've worked 60-hour weeks, eaten ramen for dinner, worn the same 3 outfits to my receptionist job. For 5 years, I believed I was the failure, the disappointment, the daughter who couldn't make it without handouts. My grandmother's letter is still in my hands, the one I found cleaning out her old jewelry box Mom finally gave me. For my precious granddaughters, equal shares of love and equal chances at their dreams. Equal shares. The restaurant windows glow warm and golden. Inside, my parents are probably giving another toast to their perfect daughter, their success story, their investment that paid off. They used my half of the inheritance to build her entire life while I broke myself trying to build mine from nothing. My chest feels like it's caving in. The steering wheel is cold under my white knuckles. But something else is rising in me now, something darker than heartbreak. They made me invisible for 5 years, but what they don't know yet is that invisible people see everything. Growing up in the Rosewood house meant learning your place early. Mine was at the kitchen table with homework spread everywhere, earbuds in, trying to focus while Celeste practiced piano in the living room. Mom would sit beside her, turning pages, beaming with pride. Valentina's so independent, Mom would tell visitors, like independence was a consolation prize for invisibility. Every morning, I'd wake up to the sound of Celeste's shower running first. She got ready for school while I made breakfast for everyone, checking that Dad had his coffee the way he liked it, making sure Mom's pills were by her plate. Small gestures that felt like love languages. Nobody spoke back to me. But I told myself it was fine. We all had our roles. Celeste was the star. Straight A's without trying, lead in every school play, dating the quarterback who actually respected her. She had this effortless way of lighting up rooms, making everyone feel like they were part of something special just by being near her. I was the steady one. The one who remembered birthdays, who worked summers at the hardware store to help with groceries, who stayed home Friday nights so Mom wouldn't worry about both daughters being out. I convinced myself that being needed was the same as being loved. During family dinners, I'd watch them talk about Celeste's college applications, her SAT scores, her bright future. Stanford was calling. Full scholarships were possible. The world was opening up for her. What about Valentina? Grandma Rose would sometimes ask. Oh, she's practical, Dad would say, ruffling my hair. Community college first, then we'll see. Not everyone needs to be a rocket scientist. I'd smile and nod because that's what good daughters do. But late at night, I'd lie awake calculating how many hours I'd need to work to afford the university I really wanted. How many years it would take. Whether dreams had expiration dates. The hardest part wasn't being overlooked. It was convincing myself I preferred the shadows. When Celeste got into Stanford with a partial scholarship, the celebration lasted 3 days. Neighbors came over. Extended family called. Mom cried happy tears and kept saying, "We're so proud, we're so proud." I hugged my sister tight and meant it. Her success felt like our family's success, and I genuinely loved seeing her happy. What I didn't know was that behind my back, my parents were having conversations about making it work financially. About doing whatever it takes for Celeste's future. About funds I didn't know existed and sacrifices I hadn't agreed to make. I kept working double shifts that summer, saving every penny for my own modest dreams, while they planned how to spend money that was already mine. The morning Celeste left for college, I helped her pack the car. She hugged me at the end, tears in her eyes. "I'm going to miss you so much, Val. You're the best sister anyone could ask for." I believed her. I believed all of it. Standing in our driveway, waving goodbye, I felt proud to be part of something bigger than myself. Proud to be supporting someone I loved. Proud that our family was strong enough to launch dreams into the world. What I felt was real. What I didn't know yet was that my parents had already decided whose dreams mattered most. And it was never going to be mine. The phone call happened on a Tuesday morning while I was filing insurance claims at the front desk. Mom's voice carried across the small office lobby, and I should have minded my own business. But something in her tone made me freeze. "The trust account transfer went through yesterday," she was saying, her voice lower than usual. "Celeste's spring tuition is covered now." "Trust account?" I pressed the phone closer to my ear, pretending to focus on my computer screen while my heart started doing something weird in my chest. I know, Mom continued. "It feels strange using Rose's money, but she would have wanted this. She loved both girls, but Celeste has the real potential here. Both girls. Rose's money. My grandmother Rose, who died 5 years ago. The grandmother who used to slip me $20 bills and whisper, 'For your college fund, sweetheart. Don't tell your parents.' The lawyer said the paperwork was clean." Mom's voice dropped even lower. "Valentina never needs to know there was anything left. It's better this way. She wouldn't understand the bigger picture." The filing cabinet felt cold against my palm. My breath came in shallow puffs. There was money. From Grandma Rose. Money that involved me somehow, but money I was never supposed to know about. Mom's laugh sounded forced. "She's doing fine with her community college plan. Some people are just built for different paths, you know?" The call ended. Mom walked past my desk 20 minutes later, stopping to squeeze my shoulder. "How's my hardworking girl today?" I looked up at her familiar smile, searching for signs of the conversation I'd just overheard. But she looked exactly the same. Warm brown eyes, the slight worry lines she'd always had, her wedding ring clicking against her coffee mug. "I'm good, Mom. Really good." The words felt like cotton in my mouth. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every word. Trust account. Rose's money. Both girls. Bigger picture. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe it was something else entirely. Maybe my parents weren't capable of lying to me about something that big. But my grandmother's voice echoed in my memory, "Don't tell your parents." Like she knew something I didn't. Like she was trying to protect something that was meant for me. The truth hit me like a freight train on a Saturday morning, 3 weeks after that phone call. I was cleaning out storage boxes in Mom's garage, looking for my old textbooks to sell online for gas money. Behind Christmas decorations and photo albums, I found a manila folder with my name written in Grandma Rose's careful handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Bank statements. Legal documents. A handwritten letter dated 2 days before Grandma died. "My dearest Valentina and Celeste," the letter began. "I'm leaving each of my granddaughters $100,000 from my estate. Equal shares for equal love. Use this money to chase your dreams, sweet girls. Don't let anyone tell you those dreams are too big. $100,000. Each." The bank statements showed the account being established 5 years ago. 2 beneficiaries listed, Valentina Rose Rosewood and Celeste Marie Rosewood. My vision blurred as I flipped through the pages. Withdrawals started 6 months after Grandma's funeral. $25,000 for Stanford University, Celeste Rosewood tuition, $18,000 for campus housing deposit, C, Rosewood, $12,000 for vehicle down payment, CR. Page after page of my inheritance being spent on my sister's perfect life. The final statement showed my portion, $0. Celeste's portion, $0. Both accounts cleaned out. Both futures purchased for one daughter. I sat on the garage floor, surrounded by Christmas tinsel and betrayal, reading my grandmother's words over and over. Equal shares for equal love. My chest felt like it was caving in. All those years of working 2 jobs, of choosing community college because we can't afford more, of eating ramen while Celeste posted Instagram photos from fancy Stanford dining halls. All those years of believing I was the practical daughter, the one who didn't need handouts, the one who was built for a different path. They stole my path. They stole my grandmother's love. They stole 5 years of believing I wasn't worth investing in. I thought about every family dinner where they praised Celeste's achievements. Achievements paid for with money that was half mine. Every time they said they were so proud of her success. Success I had unknowingly funded through my own stolen inheritance. My phone buzzed. A text from Celeste, just got into grad school. Mom and Dad are helping with applications fees. So grateful for this family's support. Applications fees. Paid with money Grandma Rose left for both of us. I pressed my face into my knees and sobbed until my ribs ached. Not just for the money, but for the lies. The casual way they'd stolen my future and served it to my sister on a silver platter while I broke my back trying to earn what was already mine. The worst part wasn't even the theft. It was the pity. The way they'd looked at me like I was the family failure, the daughter who couldn't quite measure up, the one who needed to learn life's hard lessons. When the truth was, they had orchestrated my struggles. They had created my failures. They had made me small so Celeste could be big. I wiped my eyes and looked at Grandma's letter one more time. Don't let anyone tell you those dreams are too big. But they didn't just tell me my dreams were too big. They made sure I could never afford to find out how big they could be. They made sure I stayed invisible while they built a monument to their perfect daughter with the bricks of my stolen future. That was the moment everything changed. Not when I found the money was gone, but when I realized they had enjoyed watching me struggle for something they had already taken from me. For 3 weeks after finding the documents, I became a ghost in my own life. I'd wake up every morning at 6 a.m., shower, put on my work clothes, and stare at myself in the bathroom mirror. Same face. Same brown eyes. Same person who had been lied to for 5 years without knowing it. You're fine, I'd whisper to my reflection. You're completely fine. But my hands would shake putting on mascara, and I'd have to start over twice. At work, I answered phones with the same cheerful voice I'd always used. Henderson Marketing, this is Valentina, how can I help you? Nobody could tell that inside, I was screaming. During lunch breaks, I'd sit in my car and stare at my phone, scrolling through Celeste's social media. Photos of her Stanford dorm room, decorated with furniture I now knew cost more than I made in 2 months. Pictures of her study abroad trip to Italy last summer. Her shiny new laptop. Her designer clothes. All of it paid for with money that was mine. I'd start crying in parking lots, ugly sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. Then I'd fix my makeup and go back inside, smiling at coworkers who asked if I was feeling okay. Just tired, I'd say. You know how it is. The worst moments came when my family called. Mom would check in twice a week, her voice warm and concerned. You sound different, honey. Everything all right? I'd grip the phone until my knuckles went white. Part of me wanted to scream, you stole from me. You stole my entire future. But another part of me, the part that had been trained to be the good daughter, would just say, I'm fine, Mom. Just busy with work. You work too hard, she'd say, and the irony would hit me like a slap. I worked hard because they made me work hard. Because they took away my other options and fed them to my sister. Celeste called too, always bubbly, always full of news about her perfect life. I miss you, Val. When are you coming to visit me at Stanford? I want to show you around campus. Campus that I was paying for. Dorm room that my inheritance decorated. Dreams that used to be half mine. Soon, I'd lie. I'm saving up for the trip. After hanging up, I'd curl up on my couch and cry until my eyes swelled shut. The worst part wasn't even the anger. It was the shame. The crushing embarrassment of realizing I'd been played for a fool by the people who were supposed to love me most. I stopped eating regular meals. Food tasted like dust. I'd lose entire evenings staring at the TV without seeing anything, my mind stuck on repeat. How did I not know? How was I so stupid? How many times did they laugh about this behind my back? Some nights, I'd dream about confronting them. I'd imagine showing up at Sunday dinner with the bank statements, watching their faces crumble as I exposed their lies. But I'd wake up feeling sick, knowing I was too broken to fight. One particularly bad evening, I called in sick to work and spent the day in bed, covers pulled over my head. I felt like I was drowning in my own apartment, suffocating on betrayal and helplessness. That's when I heard Grandma Rose's voice in my head, clear as if she was sitting on my bed. Don't let anyone tell you those dreams are too big. I sat up slowly, wiping my face with shaking hands. Maybe I couldn't get my money back. Maybe I couldn't undo 5 years of lies. But I could stop letting them win. I could stop letting them make me small. That night, for the first time in weeks, I didn't cry myself to sleep. Instead, I lay awake planning. If they wanted to play games with my future, fine. But this time, I was going to write the rules. The plan started forming on a rainy Thursday night while I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by laptop printouts and legal documents I'd been studying for weeks. I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. Confrontation was what they'd expect from someone like me, the emotional daughter, the one who wore her heart on her sleeve, the one they could dismiss with patronizing smiles and your overreacting conversations. But what they didn't expect was patience. I spent my first paycheck after the discovery on something I'd never imagined buying, a consultation with a lawyer who specialized in estate fraud. The meeting cost me 2 weeks of grocery money, but I learned something crucial. My parents hadn't just stolen from me. They'd committed wire fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. The lawyer's words rang in my ears, "You have grounds for criminal charges." But criminal charges would be quick, messy, public. They'd declare bankruptcy, play the victim card, turn the family against me. Everyone would remember the drama, not the injustice. No. I wanted something slower. Something that would hurt the way their betrayal hurt me, gradually, then all at once. I started documenting everything. Every family conversation, every lie about money being tight, every time they praised Celeste's hard work while ignoring mine. I kept a journal, noting dates, quotes, witnesses. I opened my own secret savings account and started putting away every spare dollar. Not for revenge expenses, for leverage. The kind of money that talks louder than emotions. During family dinners, I became a student of their weaknesses. Dad's construction business was struggling more than he admitted. I watched him stress eat during conversations about late payments and difficult clients. Mom's part-time job at the dental office was barely covering her medication costs. And Celeste? Celeste was graduating into an art history job market that basically didn't exist. She had no practical skills, no backup plan, and no idea how much of her confidence was built on stolen money. They all thought I was finally settling down, becoming less moody, more like my old agreeable self. What I was actually doing was learning to hide in plain sight. I enrolled in night business classes at the community college, telling them I was exploring options. I researched their industries, their vulnerabilities, their dependencies. I started networking with people in Dad's construction field, making connections they didn't know I had. Most importantly, I stopped needing their approval. For years, I'd craved their validation, their pride, their recognition. But sitting in those business classes, surrounded by people who were building their own futures without handouts, I realized something powerful. I didn't need them to believe in me anymore. I just needed them to need me. The turning point came 6 months into my planning, when Dad called asking if I could loan him $3,000 for equipment repair. His voice was strained, desperate in a way I'd never heard before. "I hate to ask, Val, but you're always so good with money. I'll pay you back next month, I promise." I almost laughed. He was asking me for money while sitting on the knowledge that he'd stolen $100,000 from me. Of course, Dad. Family helps family, right? The check I wrote him came from my secret account, money I was saving for something much bigger than equipment repairs. As I handed it over, I saw something new in his eyes when he looked at me. Not dismissal. Not pity. Respect. The kind that comes from desperation. That night, I updated my journal with a new entry: Dad borrowed $3,000. First crack in their foundation. They're starting to see me as a solution instead of a problem. I had learned the most important lesson of all: revenge isn't about destruction. It's about becoming the person they can't afford to lose. 18 months after discovering the truth, I walked into Henderson Marketing wearing a suit that cost more than my old monthly rent. "Congratulations on the promotion, Valentina," my former boss called out as I cleaned out my desk. "Senior consultant at Morrison & Associates, that's incredible." I smiled, packing my things while my old coworkers whispered about my transformation. They'd watched me go from quiet receptionist to MBA candidate to corporate rising star. What they didn't know was that every late-night studying, every networking event, every calculated career move had been fueled by something darker than ambition. My phone rang as I loaded boxes into my new car. Dad's name on the screen. "Val, honey, I hate to bother you, but..." His voice carried that familiar strain I'd been hearing more often lately. "The Henderson project fell through. We're looking at some serious cash flow problems." I let the silence stretch just long enough to make him uncomfortable. "How serious, Dad?" "Maybe $20,000 to keep us afloat until the Morrison contract comes through." I know it's a lot to ask. The Morrison contract. The one my new company was handling. The one I'd specifically requested to oversee. "Dad, I'm actually consulting on the Morrison project now. Didn't I mention that?" Another silence. I could practically hear his brain working, connecting dots he'd never expected to connect. You're working with Morrison? Our Morrison? Small world, right? Listen, let me review their contractor requirements and get back to you. I want to make sure everything's handled properly." For the first time in my life, I heard my father's voice change when he talked to me. Less paternal, more careful. More respectful. "Of course, whatever you think is best. You're the expert now." After hanging up, I sat in my car feeling something I'd never experienced before. My parents needed me more than I needed them. But with that power came an uncomfortable question that kept me awake at night. As I'd gained influence over their financial stability, as I'd maneuvered myself into positions where I could help or hurt their futures, was I becoming the manipulator I'd always despised? The thought hit me hardest during Celeste's phone calls. She'd been struggling since graduation, her art history degree worth about as much as we'd all secretly known it would be. "I don't understand what's wrong with me, Val," she said during one late-night conversation. "I've applied everywhere. Mom and Dad keep saying the job market will turn around, but I'm starting to think." She trailed off, and I knew she was crying. "I'm thinking of moving back home. I can't afford my apartment much longer." Part of me felt genuine sympathy for my sister. She hadn't asked our parents to steal from me. She'd simply accepted the advantages they offered, the way any child would. But another part of me, the part that remembered every "you're so practical" Valve comment, every family dinner where her achievements were celebrated while mine were ignored, whispered, "Now she knows what struggling feels like." The internal war was exhausting. Was I seeking justice or just revenge? Was I correcting an imbalance or creating a new one? My answer came during Sunday dinner at my parents' house, my first visit in over a year. Mom set the table with her good china, the way she used to do for Celeste's achievements. Dad asked thoughtful questions about my career, genuinely interested in my answers for the first time I could remember. But the biggest change was how they looked at me. Not with the distant affection they'd always shown, but with something that looked almost like awe. I was no longer the practical daughter, the backup plan, the one who didn't need attention. I was the successful one. The one with influence. The one who could solve their problems or choose not to. Sitting at that dinner table, I realized I'd already won something more valuable than my stolen inheritance. I'd won their respect. And soon, I'd have their complete dependence. The real question wasn't whether I was becoming like them. The question was, what was I going to do with all this power? The confrontation happened exactly where I planned it, Dad's office, 3 days before his business would declare bankruptcy. I walked in wearing my best suit, carrying a briefcase that contained 2 things: a cashier's check for $500,000 and copies of every document from Grandma Rose's stolen trust fund. Dad looked up from his desk, relief flooding his face when he saw me. "Valentina, thank God. Did you think about what we discussed?" Mom sat in the corner chair, tissues clutched in her hands. Celeste stood by the window, wearing clothes I recognized from 3 years ago, back when she could afford new ones. I set the briefcase on Dad's desk and opened it slowly. "I brought something for all of you." Their eyes went to the check first. Dad's breath caught. 500,000? "Val, how did you?" "That's not the important part." I placed the bank statements beside the check. "This is..." Mom went white. Actually white. Celeste stepped closer, reading over Dad's shoulder. "What is this?" "Grandma Rose's trust fund," I said calmly. "The one she left to both of us. Equal shares, remember?" Dad's hands shook as he picked up the documents. "Valentina, we can explain." "Can you?" I sat down across from him, crossing my legs. "Explain how you told me there was no inheritance while spending mine on Celeste's education? Explain how you watched me work 60-hour weeks to pay for community college while you funded her Stanford degree with my money?" Celeste's voice came out in a whisper. "Is this real?" $100,000 each, I continued. "Gone. Every penny spent on your perfect life while I ate ramen and wore the same 3 outfits to work." Mom started crying. We believed Celeste had more potential. More potential. I let that hang in the air. "So you decided to steal my grandmother's love and give it to her instead?" Dad tried to salvage something. "We were going to tell you eventually. When we could afford to pay it back." "When?" "After I'd wasted my entire 20s struggling for something that was already mine." The room fell silent except for Mom's quiet sobbing. I stood up, straightening my jacket. "Here's what's going to happen. You'll take this money to save Dad's business. But first, you're going to do something you should have done years ago." I looked at each of them in turn. "You're going to tell the truth. At Tommy's wedding next month, in front of the entire family, you're going to stand up and publicly apologize for stealing my inheritance. You're going to explain exactly what you did and ask for my forgiveness." Dad's face crumpled. "Valentina, please. That's the deal. Take it or lose everything." Celeste spoke up, her voice small. "I didn't know, Val. I swear I didn't know." I turned to look at my sister, really look at her. Dark circles under her eyes. Cheap clothes. The confidence that used to radiate from her completely gone. "I know you didn't," I said softly. "But you benefited from it anyway." I walked to the door, then paused. "You have until tomorrow to decide. But understand this, I'm not the desperate daughter anymore. I don't need your approval, your love, or your validation. You need me now." I opened the door and looked back at my family one last time. The difference between us is that when I had power over your futures, I chose to save you. When you had power over mine, you chose to steal from me. I left them there, sitting with the weight of their choices and the sound of their world finally collapsing around them. For the first time in 5 years, I felt completely free. They took the deal because they had no choice. Tommy's wedding was beautiful oceanfront ceremony, 300 guests, all our extended family gathered under string lights and summer stars. I wore a dress that cost more than I used to make in a month and felt genuinely happy for my cousin's new beginning. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Dad stood up during the reception, his hands visibly shaking as he tapped his champagne glass for attention. The conversations died down. Everyone turned to face him. Before we continue celebrating Tommy and Sarah, he began, his voice cracking, "My wife and I need to address something publicly." Mom rose beside him, tears already streaming down her face. 5 years ago, when my mother passed away, Dad continued, she left a trust fund to be split equally between my daughters, Valentina and Celeste. We made a terrible decision. The silence was deafening. I could see Uncle Roberto frowning, Aunt Maria leaning forward in her chair. We used Valentina's half to pay for Celeste's education without telling her the money existed. We stole from our own daughter and let her struggle for years while funding her sister's advantages. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Celeste, sitting 2 tables away, had her face buried in her hands. We're asking for Valentina's forgiveness publicly because we failed her privately. She deserved better from her parents. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Uncle Roberto stood up and walked out, shaking his head in disgust. Aunt Maria came to my table, hugged me tight, and whispered, "I always knew you were the strong one, sweetheart." Cousin after cousin approached me throughout the evening, not with pity, but with respect. They'd watched me build myself up from nothing and never known I was doing it with my hands tied behind my back. But the real change wasn't in how my family looked at me. It was in how I felt about myself. For 5 years, I'd carried this secret shame that I wasn't good enough, smart enough, ambitious enough to deserve investment. I'd internalized their message that I was the practical daughter, the one who didn't need dreams because I wasn't capable of achieving them. That shame was gone now, replaced by something I'd never experienced before, unshakable self-worth. I thought betrayal had broken me, left me permanently damaged and unable to trust. But sitting at that wedding, watching my parents publicly account for their choices, I realized betrayal had actually rebuilt me into someone stronger. Someone who knew exactly what they were worth. The weeks that followed brought more changes. Dad's business, saved by my investment, was thriving again, but now I owned 40% of it. Every major decision came through me first. Celeste moved back home, taking a job at a local coffee shop while she figured out her next steps. She called me one evening, her voice small and uncertain. "I keep thinking about all the opportunities one had that you didn't," she said. "The study abroad, the unpaid internships I could afford to take, the networking events. It's all tainted now." "It doesn't have to be," I told her. "You can't change how you got those opportunities, but you can choose what you do with what you learned." She was quiet for a long moment. Would you help me apply for grad school? But I want to pay my own way this time." "Of course," I said, and meant it. Because here's what I'd learned about revenge. The sweetest kind isn't about destroying the people who hurt you. It's about becoming someone they can't help but respect. Someone whose forgiveness actually means something. Someone who chooses grace not because they're weak, but because they're finally, undeniably strong. Today, I'm sitting in my car outside that same restaurant where Celeste's birthday party happened 3 years ago. But this time, I'm not shaking with betrayal and heartbreak. This time, I'm here for my own celebration. Morrison and Associates just made me their youngest senior partner in company history. The signing bonus alone is more than my parents stole from me, and I earned every penny of it myself. My phone buzzes with congratulations texts. One from Dad, "So proud of you, honey. Dinner tonight to celebrate?" One from Mom, my successful daughter. Can't wait to brag to everyone. Even one from Celeste, you inspire me every day, Val. Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I look at these messages and feel something I never thought I'd feel again, genuine warmth for my family. Not because they've changed completely, they're still the same flawed people who made terrible choices. But because I've changed. I'm no longer the daughter waiting for their approval or validation. I'm the woman who saved them from themselves and chose forgiveness over destruction. The restaurant windows still glow warm and golden, but now I can afford to eat there whenever I want. I can afford anything I want, actually, because I built this life with my own hands after they tried to take my future away. Here's the truth about stolen inheritances and family betrayals. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is having your safety net ripped away. It forces you to discover just how high you can fly on your own wings. They thought they were choosing Celeste's future over mine. What they actually did was give me the greatest gift possible, the absolute certainty that I could succeed despite them, not because of them. I start my car and pull away from the restaurant, heading home to the life I created from nothing. Some people are born with silver spoons. Others have theirs stolen. But the ones who learn to feed themselves? We never go hungry again.